Welcome to another week of Brew Sky's Booze News, where we give you the rundown of the alcoholic beverage industry stories that were either the most important or just the ones that drew our attention.
Usually the second half.
Usually the second half. I'm Mike Morgan.
I'm Bret Kollmann-Baker. Cheers.
Cheers.
I wanted to wait to pour
luck with
this
an
out.
empty glass, for Christ's
Well,
sake.
you dump out your luck, is the saying, right? Well, I just wanted everyone to know that it is August 4th and it's Oktoberfest season already.
Oh, for Christ's sakes.
I got this last week, too, in July. So it is Oktoberfest time, and I just wanted you all to see the very first Oktoberfest poured in our brand new studio bar. And while you're watching this settle, make sure you like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. We do a wonderful oral history of craft beer. But most importantly, please subscribe and engage. If you have any comments, let us know how we're doing down below. If you have any questions of the week, also ask them down below. We'll make sure they get into the show next week's episode or whatever, whenever you ask.
None of that was as filthy as it sounded. Why, actually, before you get into the news, I mean, we are living in a society, I don't get it from a retail standpoint, because we went through this whole COVID thing and we learned that we have like by the second supply chains right now. You know, that nobody is ordering anything until like 10 minutes before they need it. So why in the hell can you still walk into a retail store and not be able to buy a pair of swimming trunks in July because winter coats are what's now everything? And why has that leached over into the brewing industry where an Oktoberfest comes out in July, Christmas beer, you have to drink it in October or it's sold out? I mean, it defeats the entire fucking point of a seasonal beer. That's a great beer, but I don't want to drink it right now because it's too hot.
Well, I don't know anything about swim trunks, but at least with beer, there's two things at play here. One's FOMO. Everybody's afraid if they don't release it right at the earliest possible second that retailers aren't going to buy it. And then in turn, consumers aren't going to buy it. So everybody's scared.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is this prevailing myth that seasonal creep is a thing, as in things keep coming out sooner and sooner and sooner. They don't.
That's self-fulfilling.
And they don't come out sooner and sooner and sooner. Oktoberfest beers have been coming out on July 31st for the past decade plus. It's just that we think every year we forget. We just forget every year.
I don't think it's been that long.
Well, it doesn't matter. Regardless, they're out now. Everything comes out way early. You just got to buy it and sit on it, apparently. You got to be your own seller.
Not doing that. Just not drinking it.
See, and that's how you vote with your dollars, Mike. This is capitalism.
It's the only vote that matters anymore, as it turns out.
Money, yes.
Yeah.
Well, cheers. Now with a glass. So, let's get into it. Tequila continues to grow. The bottom is what's blooming, though. So, I don't know how big of a tequila fan you are, but I'm sure you've seen George Clooney's, whatever, co-opting of Mexican heritage with his tequila brand.
Yes.
Talking about how he discovered tequila, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. George Clooney, it's not like he needs it. But there's been plenty of other. Sammy Hagar was the original celebrity. He's probably doing it with Cabo Wabo. Doesn't really matter about the celebrities, but the high end. They've all been high-end priced. High-end tequila has seen...
Was the P. Diddy one a high-end?
It was a high-end one as well. All of these have seen... Good callback. All of these have seen enormous growth the past decade. Well, this year, it's looking like low-end tequila is finally coming around. Which I don't know about you, but I'm not trying to spend $50+ a bottle of tequila.
No, I think we've talked about it here before. I mean, sommeliers that I know get all geeked these days about really good tequilas. And I actually haven't had one, so I'm not going to judge it. I believe that they exist.
They are good.
But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I learned to drink cheap tequila, tequila, with
El Toro, baby.
side carts. Yeah. So, whatever. I mean, I think it's how... I always thought it's how tequila was supposed to be served. Cheap and by the shot and with a lime.
There is some fantastic sipping tequilas out there. I'm just happy that good tequila is becoming more available at a price point that I can afford, which is in that $20 to $30 price range, which is where the biggest growth is happening.
Yeah.
And it's coupled with climate change. Ooh. It's driving things...
If it were real, proceed.
The agave market is finally settling down. Prices are coming down on agave. So you can actually get good 100% agave tequilas at a good price. So it's nice to see things changing around.
How do you define agave? It's regional, correct? Like it has to be made with something specific and it has to be made in a specific region?
It's a lot like tequilas are a lot like bourbon or whiskeys, where depending on the type you're making in the locale, there's a bunch of other restrictions like blue agave versus different types of agave, and mezcal has to come from like that mezcal area and tequila. Or
But that has to be regional, unlike bourbon. You can make bourbon wherever you. I mean, you have to make it with white oak barrels, but
that was the biggest fuck up Kentucky's probably ever had. Not locking that to a geography.
Mitch McConnell was the biggest fuck up Kentucky's ever had, but that's number 2. Sure.
Look, I am pro animal. I like turtles.
Well, sure.
Molson Coors has had their best quarter ever on record. They have grown an extraordinary amount. Could you guess why?
One for the little dog.
Can you guess why Molson Coors grew so much in Q2 of
Bud
2023?
Light.
Yeah, Bud Light. Yep. Bud Light is down. AB as a whole, the whole entire company of Anheuser-Busch, so more than just Bud Light, down 10% in revenue in Q2. Absolutely
like
decimated.
Dylan Mulvaney has like a bunch of, is that her name?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I wonder if she has like a bunch of stock in Molson Coors. And
If she shorted AB before she got that, that'd be the biggest financial move since the housing crisis and that guy who made The Big Short.
Yeah.
Anheuser-Busch is actually down 5% market share total. Total company, which is 5%.
Is that AB or AB InBev?
AB InBev. In America.
In America.
That is such a massive amount of loss, though. Like, craft beer is only like 15%. And they lost 5. A third of craft beer's volume just disappeared in a quarter. They're down to, and don't get me wrong, they still own way too much of the beer market.
Still like 70 or 80% of it.
It's actually 36.9. It's been on a steady decline for about 30 years now. But it's, 5% drop is huge. From 40% down to 30s, whew, bad. So, I don't know.
I thought they were a much higher. Maybe it was just like the light beer market that Bud Light had constituted.
Yeah.
It was a massive percentage of the light beer market.
Yes, but Bud Light was over 50%, near 60% of the light beer market for the longest time. It is not anymore.
More than that. Rest in peace, bitches.
Ball Can. So we talked about Ardall having to close 2 facilities, was it? Like 700 jobs?
Ball, name of it, not how it's shaped.
Yeah, Ball Can's now, same thing. Also down 10% revenue.
Wow.
Directly attributed to Bud Light is what they're claiming.
Wow.
So the Bud Light ripples continue. Has a woman had a bigger impact on a country since Helen of Troy? Is Dylan Mulvaney the new Helen of Troy?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, get ready for the
Probably
Beer
other
Wars
examples.
Part 2. I can't think of one.
I mean,
Diana? Princess Diana?
yeah, I don't know what she did.
I know what the last thing she did was.
It's the one people remember, really.
Guinness.
I think Eleanor Roosevelt did some shit, but let's proceed.
We're off to a very constructive booze news this week. Let's keep it rolling. Guinness posted its best year ever.
Interesting. So that poll that we talked about a few weeks back, where like the number one beer that people said was their, I forget how it was worded. And it wasn't what they said they drank the most of, but they said like their favorite beer. And we talked about the fact that people say what they think they're supposed to say as opposed to what they actually do.
Yes.
It sounds like there's actually some meat behind that bullshit.
Yes. A lot of it's driven by the global increase, the global market. So China getting buoyed up, Africa actually doing pretty okay for the Guinness. They've actually had a long history of success in Africa. So these things have definitely helped. Yeah. But European markets are coming back. On-premise in Europe is back to pre-pandemic levels finally. Beer production is back to pre-pandemic levels in Europe. So Guinness is booming.
When they become popular in the Philippines, that's going to be the key.
Yeah. I mean, they crush more alcohol than anybody. Yeah. Surprisingly. Mike, how do you feel about
Bud Light's new campaign in the Philippines? Good idea.
It involves cutting down the rainforest
sure,
and using an orangutan as a spokesperson.
Why not?
How do you feel about pour your own venues?
I fucking hate them like cancer. I cannot understate how much I hate pour your own beer venues.
What about it is so terrible?
I mean, why leave the house, first of all? If I'm going to pour my own beer, I can do it in my house. I mean, there is a whole, as somebody that spent years as a bartender and who is a regular in a whole lot of bars, the bartender is an important part of the experience in a bar. Conversations, we talk about hating TVs in bars. Conversation is a big part of a good bar aesthetic. And so is an interactive
knowing when to
bartender.
have conversation versus
Right.
when not is
Yes.
a skill that top tier bartenders have.
Yes, absolutely. So the whole idea of, let's cut the bartender out of everything and let's have you pour your own drinks out of a machine with no interaction and no consultation and nobody actually giving you any sort of wisdom about what this is like, what you might like or dislike, because that's another thing with a good bartender, is having that knowledge to help inform your customer when they want it. And it cuts all of that out. It just cuts the dynamic out. And at the end of the day, the prices aren't cheaper.
Usually more expensive.
Yeah.
Because you got to pay for all that damn infrastructure.
I went, there was a brewery that was self-serve here locally, and I had to meet people there, so I went to it, and the whole experience went down like this. I walked in, I got to give them a credit card. They give you like a card that you use to buy beer that you pour yourself. So I take the card and I get like 2 beers with it. And then the card cuts me off.
Yeah.
Yes. It's and I mean, I didn't even drive there, and I'm a full-ass grown adult. And I will sometimes sit here and record this show and drink more than I drank at that place with their stupid little card. So it arbitrarily cut me off. And then I go to cash out and I got to sit around and wait on other people. I think maybe I got a friend who didn't drink to buy me a beer. And like I'm 16 again. And then I go to cash out and you got to like hand them the card so that they can run it and hand you your credit card back. And it had like a tip section on it. And I tip well. And so I didn't tip anything. And the guy calls me on it. He's like, what? Wait, you didn't tip. Or aren't you going to tip us? No, I'm not going to tip you. Fuck you. You literally did nothing. Was that a complete answer?
No, it's good. I'm glad this happened to you because I thought I was going insane. I went to a Pour Your Own at a beer conference event full of brewery professionals at this Pour Your Own place. There was only 4 professionals because the whole place was closed off for the meeting.
Yeah.
They set a limit of 64 ounces, which is a half a gallon, which sounds like a lot, but you know how much that is? It's 4 fucking pints. You know how much I drink at beer events when I don't have to drive and I have a hotel that's a block away? Way more than 4 fucking pints. That motherfucker cut me off. What the hell is this? I'm getting cut off by a robot? This is bullshit. You don't know me, you dumbass robot. Give me more beer. Oh, and the fact they still have the audacity to charge $8-9 a pint when you're pouring your own, and you pay for the loss that way too. Yeah. When a bartender pours and it's all foam and they overfill it and they're only charging you for what gets put in your glass. Yeah. They don't charge you for the run over. At those places, they charge you for everything.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just the consumer experience part of it. There's also the fact that tending bar is a pretty decent job for particularly younger people.
Yep.
I mean, if you're a good bartender and in a decent establishment, then you can do pretty well with tips. I mean, it's a decent job.
You can make 50, 60K easy as a bartender at a moderately busy place.
And in your early 20s, that's a nice little gig. I mean,
a lot of money.
I used
in cash.
Yeah,
unregistered tips.
I used to like it, and so you're eliminating those jobs, and you're not. So you're just screwing everybody all around. So fuck you. Any self-pour place, brewery, bar, whatever. I hope you all go bankrupt. because you're just vile.
Most recently I went to, there's a little town here outside of Cincinnati called Loveland. And I saw this place that was called Hops and Vines. And I was like, oh, great. They must have a really good beer selection. They probably know a lot about wine. I bet these people appreciate alcohol to the same level, or at least close, that I appreciate alcohol. And we can kind of nerd out a little bit with the bartender. Guess what didn't happen? I didn't have a single beer there because we walked in and it's a pour your own place. And there was an 18-year-old chick. She's doing her best, but she doesn't know fuck all about beer because she wasn't given any goddamn training because she's not expected to either.
Not her fault.
No, it's not her fault at all. But the experience as a customer is terrible.
Yes.
Your name and everything you're showing me is that I'm going to have a good, knowledgeable time where I can maybe learn something and experience some new shit. But instead I walk in and it's all Anheuser-Busch bullshit mixed with some fucking faux craft. It was awful. So this brings me to my next point. So the reason we're talking about iPour is that this company, the biggest tap pour your own bullshit company called iPourIt, just go fuck yourself. They released stats. I'm just kidding.
I'm not.
They released a bunch of stats on what was the most drank beers in 2022 through their pour stuff.
Okay. So you start out, it's a skewed poll.
Yes.
Because you have to be an asshole, step one.
Yes. So,
and an idiot.
You imagine this. You're Gen X, you go into an iPour station. What are the top 5 beers drank by Gen Xers at pour your own places?
Gen X or Gen Z? Because
Gen X.
The top 4 self-pour beers by Gen X drinkers.
Yep.
And these are not going to necessarily be. I mean, they're serving all systems, right?
And we're not. This is only craft. Craft
this is
micro
only craft beers.
And faux craft counts too. It's not. It's just not Bud Miller Coors, that stuff.
Okay, Blue Moon.
Blue Moon is number 2.
Bell's Two Hearted.
Nope.
Which is a fantastic beer.
It is a good beer.
It sells incredibly well.
Yeah.
Arrogant Bastard.
Nope. Mango Cart from Golden Road Brewing is number 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Mango
I can
Cart,
see that.
Blue Moon, Space Dust by Elysian,
Oh.
Big Wave from Kona, and Firestone Walker 805.
The Big Wave, I should have gotten that one. The Mango Cart doesn't surprise me. The Elysian, that's surprising that's still doing as well. Because they wrecked that beer.
The First Stone Brewing Company beer is number 9, and it's Buena Vesa, their Mexican lager. And then Sierra Nevada is Hazy Little Thing, number 10. This is basically faux craft beer. You can see the whole list. Check the link below. It'll be posted. You can see the whole list of all top 50 beers that iPourIt served. It's all basically faux craft people buying handles. If you're going to buy something like that, you clearly don't care about the customer experience, so you're clearly going to buy crap fake beer too. So, granted, that's a lot of generalizations and
you don't care that they eliminated a bartender job, so you don't care that the beer is being made by a multinational, greedy as hell corporation that has no soul.
That's exactly what it is. Yes. You get what you deserve.
Right. Just buy your Bud Light and shut the fuck up.
This is a very angry episode.
This is how we like to try to grow a viewer base.
That's how he wants to grow.
Hate.
Coca Cola, Europe and Pacific, and Beam Suntory have officially broken ties. If that doesn't mean anything to you, I'm not surprised. Basically, Coca Cola has been distributing Jim Beam brand products, liquors, through Europe and Australia and Asia markets. But those two brands have severed ties officially at the end of this year. Now you might be asking why, and why are we talking about that? Well, if you recall from last week, I believe, we mentioned that Coca Cola has spun up its own alcohol business in the US called Red Tree Beverages. Well, they're getting ready to take on Red Tree Beverages through their distribution networks, so they cut ties with Jim Beam so they can start pushing Coca-Cola alcohol and RTDs globally. So get ready for the Coca-Cola takeover in your alcohol market as well. It's basically the story here.
Thanks. Just what we needed.
Leinenkugel. They make products that are alcoholic, and their brewers are on strike right now. They're owned by Molson Coors, I believe. So their brewers are on strike. If you're out there...
Leinenkugel, are they still sort of semi-independently run? I mean, they were a big regional brewery.
They still are, and they are semi-independently run, but they are owned by Molson Coors, I believe. So if you care about unions and stuff, Don't buy Leinenkugel until this stuff's resolved. That's all. Just
I was one of those breweries. I used to have a girlfriend that was from Wisconsin, and so Leinenkugel was a very big thing. You know, you couldn't. It's one of those beers that you couldn't get it. Very big distribution. You had to like drive somewhere to get it.
Yep.
So I remember back in the day, you know, driving like 100 miles to buy her a case of Leinenkugel and whatever. Yeah, she broke up with me anyway. It's fine.
Well, you can only do so much. New research has shown that drinking vodka Red Bulls makes you more violent. I shit you not.
I would challenge the correlation versus causation, but neither one surprises me.
Do your own
really.
research, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it goes on to say, it does call out specifically vodka Red Bull, because that's what the study involved, but it does go on to say that there seems like there's also a correlation between any energy drinks with hard alcohol is a bad news if you want to keep yourself under control physically.
Cocaine and liquor are not known traditionally for helping people make good decisions. So,
can you guess the top 10 most valuable beer brands? Keyword there being valuable. Not the most revenue.
Valuable.
But what has the most value if you were going to go try to buy this brand on the open market? Which obviously
trademark specifically.
Not just trademark, but like all of everything. Revenue plus trademark plus brand value. It's everything, yes.
I would say still Budweiser is going to be number one. It has to be the most recognizable beer brand in the world.
It's not. It's Heineken.
Good God, really?
7.6 billion is what they estimate Heineken, just Heineken being worth. Corona Extra is number 2 at 7.4, and then Budweiser and Bud Light bring up 3 and 4. Modelo being number 5, Snow being number 6. If you haven't heard of Snow, it's the most popular light lager in China. Kirin, Asahi, Asahi, Coors, Miller. Those round it all out. So, there we go.
Is Kirin part?
Kirin's their own big ass brand, and they own part of Belgium
stuff.
Yeah, and they help support the Myanmar genocide that happened not too long ago.
Well, I think every brewery should have its own, philanthropic enterprises.
Yeah, they're fucked. So
they wreck Broadway, right, or Boulevard, rather.
Yes. Yeah. So the TTB wants you to know that it is still illegal to distill at home. They put out a circular. They wanted you to know that.
It's not going to stop me from doing it.
They wanted to let you know you can own a still. You just can't use it to make drinkable alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this couple on TikTok.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Sometimes they just do stuff like that if they're noticing an uptick in things. What's happening in the homebrew world right now is that homebrewing is drying up. But they're finding that these homebrew equipment sellers they're making money selling distilling equipment to people who are in homebrewing. So they're not pulling new people into homebrewing; they're just mining what's already there with distilling equipment, and it's starting to grow.
There was a like moonshiner show. I mean, there's a certain amount of pop culture behind distilling at home, which can still make you blind and kill you. So probably shouldn't anyway.
We're starting to run out of time, so I'm going to hit one more story that I thought you would like to know. There's a couple on TikTok, and they have this TikTok. It's called Operation Hangover, and what they would do is they would go live on TikTok, and you pay them, and then they take a drink.
Yeah. Okay.
And they said that their lives were getting ruined by making multiple hundreds of dollars every night because they were drinking too much, because people were paying them to take shots and whatnot. Yeah. And so that's the story. That's the story.
Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, it's probably not a good idea.
BBC reported on this, which is insane. BBC's reporting on dumbasses on TikTok. What world do we live in? We don't get paid for this. I'm drinking right now. Speaking of which, if you want to tip us, go to Patreon.
Yes, because this show doesn't pay for itself.
Okay, last beer news story of the week. Ben Affleck has a big, fat, stupid mouth.
Okay.
That's the name of a new beer.
All right.
Yep, that's it.
Fair enough.
Non-alcoholic story of the week. You probably have one as well, but mine is this. I have heard through the grapevine that the budget deficit discussion resumes in September, and it's looking very bad that the government might shut down. So if there are any people in the brewing industry listening, make sure you get your cola and label submissions in now, because when the government shuts down, you're not going to get label approvals for new labels. So government shutdown imminent is what I'm hearing. So yeah, something else we get to look forward to this wonderful year.
Great. I'm glad the Congress functions as well as it does. Also this week, big in pop culture news, was the death of Paul Reubens. And it was a little bit ironic because it was just a week ago we were talking about Paul Reubens, better known as Pee Wee Herman. And, you know, as a Gen Xer, I think Paul Reubens was really understated and under-recognized as an artist. Because I have all these friends now. You know, I don't have kids, in part because I hate them. But I've got all these friends with kids, and, you know, they have to justify to me why they sat through all these Disney movies and cartoon movies and whatnot.
I like Moana.
And they're always telling me, like, oh, well, you know, there are all these jokes in it that appeal to the adults, like the kids don't even get. And I'm not saying that's not true. But my point is actually that Paul Reubens basically invented that. You know, that whole sort of like children's programming that was functioning on two different levels. I mean, that guy did that with Pee-wee's Playhouse. And, you know, I think it's a loss. So here's to Pee-wee.
Didn't he also wank in public?
I also think it's bullshit that every story about him, yeah. It's what really kind of took his career down.
Oh, yeah. Pull his stick out.
Actually, I think the way that, I don't remember the specifics, but I think that it was really kind of a lifestyle bullshit homophobic thing that the LAPD was doing. He was in a porn theater. So he was charged basically with like masturbating in a porn theater, and before the internet, that's why you went to porn theaters. I've never been to a porn theater, but I mean, in the 80s, that's, you know, you couldn't just sit at home on the internet with Pornhub.
Okay.
You had to, so
this makes a lot more sense. It's a takedown piece.
It was
just like the Michael Jackson children's stuff. It's fucking takedown
except
stuff.
that he actually molested people, and they talked less about him molesting children when he died than they have about Pee-wee masturbating once with his. You know, Kobe Bryant, wasn't he charged with like fucking rape? And nobody mentioned that when he bit it in a helicopter.
Well, we took our dicks out for Harambe. We're going to keep them out for Paul Reubens.
Sure. I don't even know what that means.
That's even better. All right, the question of the week. I want you to answer this question as well. Please let us know. We're going to build a playlist. The question of the week is, what is your favorite drinking song? So hit us in the comments with your answer. We're going to make a Bruce Guys drinking playlist. Mike, what's your favorite drinking song?
On the playlist, I'm going to list several. Rehab by Amy Winehouse.
Good choice.
Absolutely classic song. That Keith, what's his name in the Night Sweats? That son of a bitch song.
Nathaniel Rateliff in the Night Sweats?
Yes, yeah.
S.O.B.?
Yeah, I actually, I love that band, although clearly I can't remember the name of it. But that is a fantastic song. I like the dynamic of it, actually, of the sort of trying to not drink, but then just fuck it.
Yeah. Son of a bitch, give me a drink.
I relate.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite songs to listen to when I'm drunk is Fucked with an Anchor by Ailstorm, which is really beautiful lyrically, very poetic song.
You mentioned before we started recording Tub Thumper by Chumbawamba as well, which I think is a good one.
Yeah, I do get knocked down and get back up again.
My favorite drinking song is usually Silence. I just like to sit there and brood.
But yeah, I've got some of those. We're not going to go down that route.
So we're going to have a 2-minute...
I'm dark on... I'm drunk on whiskey in a dark room by myself. Well, yeah, I got those songs.
It's that depressive.
I got those songs.
But, I like the quiet. I like the ambiance of a quiet bar with no televisions and no music. And if you just want to sit there and be silent, you can just sit there and be silent. And you don't have to be bombarded with constant stimulation.
Right.
Let us know what your favorite drinking songs are. And like we said at the top, like, subscribe, share. Check out all the other stuff we're doing on the Bruce Guys channel. Go to bruceguys.beer. You know how to reach us.
Join us next week when we will run amok once again. Cheers.